anyway, right? So that this is actually real Nibosh, not an imitation, right? And much of the work I had done in Guyana has not been 1 year, and this has been 5 years anyway. And this trip around, I was actually able to meet two of my first time students, but three, I would say three, but the third one is not really a first time student who are working in the field of safety today. One of them was a safety manager of a company, and the other one has her own company, right? A plastic company, dog and Burbies there. So, um, 5 years in Guyana, and really, I mean, there were lots of other companies I've gone to. I've went to Exxon itself. I've been with the Minister of Labor. I don't know if you all have seen those pictures. I'm not too sure if they put it in the New Guyana School Facebook page. I was at Gisby, right? And everywhere you go, I mean, they are really past or present students then, doing the New Bosch program anyway, right? So I would want to begin by first of all saying again, welcome. And this is the real New Bosch program. If you could please put on your cameras, remember that's the rule of the school. And we could probably turn it on and off if you're having, I guess, an early dinner. And it is around dinner time. So we go straight till 7:30 anyway, right? But try not to have it off for the whole session anyway, right? You can have it on and off anyway, right? And I guess I'll tell the stories as the weeks go by anyway, right? I am actually coming back, right? I actually know my days I'm coming back as well because there are lots of companies that want to do the NEBOSH training from Exxon itself to Gisby to I think it's DDL, banks, right? There are lots of companies I met with, including the Ministry of Labor itself that wants to get some training done, right? So you all are in the right place. As I mentioned, this is the real NEBOSH. This is not an imitation. This is not the TBOSH program. This is the real program. This is not the ILO spinoff. There's an ILO spinoff to the program, but this is the real one. It isn't very hard, so let's get into it. I'm going to share a slide with you. We're going to get into the course now anyway, right? What I would want you all to sort of remind me though, because we have simultaneous classes, right? So like there is a June Guyana and then there's a June Trinidad, and then there are about 2 June Trinidad, right? So from what I can remember, I cannot remember going too far into this. I think I remember some of the definitions, right? But I don't think, did you all remember if we got into moral, legal, and financial? I don't think we did. Um, I can't remember myself, but there's another June class that got into moral, legal, and financial, right? I know we did some of the definitions, but I can't remember if we got into moral, legal, and financial anyway. I can't remember, which means we didn't do it. I remember it for the other June class, but not this June class. Just give me 1 minute here. And if you do have any writing materials, you could actually have them uh, at hand because we're going to get into this now. And we are going to sort of track two questions anyway, right? Well, two past paper questions. Let me just adjust something in the room here and I would be, in fact, I don't have to leave. I'll just scoot across here and adjust it and I'll be back. Right. Yes, I'm slowly coming back. Okay, good. So let's get into this. Another problem there, Doris. That's okay. And I mean, in spite of all of that, remember, I was doing an oil and gas training in Ghana. That was 15 participants. That was, well done anyway. All the students would have been successful in that. All right. If anybody is interested in any one of those, NIBOSH has many courses as we had done for orientation. I think I'm coming back to do process safety, risk assessments, another oil and gas, right? It just goes on and on anyway. All right. So I'm making a start. So I'm going to take it from moral and you can look at the slides because I am aware that not much persons would have gotten textbooks as yet. The books are not available locally. They're not in Trinidad. They're not in Guyana. They have to be shipped from the UK. I am aware though that the purchase order was made by the New Guyana School. So I think they have done their part. So I suppose it's just up to NIBOSH now to issue those books out to Guyana. I have a batch for Trinidad too, so it's the same thing, same sort of process anyway. But the books are not available in any bookstore. It comes from the UK directly, right? But when I was in Guyana, I know that they made the purchase. So, it's just a matter of time for your books to come by. But from orientation day, you would realize, I would have said, as much as this may be strange, that the answers for these questions are really not in your book. The answers are really in two places, maybe three. The answers are, first of all, in you. The second place, the answers are in the case study. And the third place, the answer could be on Google, but more so in the case study, right? This exam, from what I mentioned to you all, is like a comprehension. I would attempt to show you all one tonight, and if not tonight, tomorrow night. But once you have the case study, which is what they will give you, you would see what I'm talking about. The book is supplementary, the notes are supplementary, the class is supplementary. Really and truly, the answers are in you and in the case study, right? All right, let's get into this one. So they would have said here that there are three reasons to manage health and safety. But they're just saying one, right? But there's actually three. If you scroll through the headings, you'll see there's the moral reason, there is the legal reason. We'll spend some time on that tomorrow. And there's the financial reason to manage health and safety, right? Despite this being probably a second class, right? This is very popular for exam, right? There's a lot of work we'll do in the 4 months ahead, but not everything comes, right? The question paper has about 7 questions. Not everything is tested. Not every line or every concept is tested then, right? What is tested is really those kind of trending topics, right? And moral, legal, and financial is a trending topic, even though it's the first thing you come across here. And 4 months from now is kind of far, but it still is what it is. It still is a very popular topic, right? Let me just read this out and explain them. So what I'll do, I'll read out moral, explain it. I'll read out financial and explain it. I will see how far that goes with legal, right? Legal is not to read. Legal is more to explain, right? So moral, we could explain. Financial, we could explain. Legal is more like something that we have to more or less teach anyway. All right, so moral reason, they said the number of work-related fatalities for the year in the UK, average number of persons killed. This is from work-related accidents, 220, about 4 people each week. The average number of workers seriously injured is about 30,000, which is about 1 in every 17 minutes. And there's an expectation from society for a safe workplace. And that expectation can drive a safer workplace. Let's go again. Let's read the next one. It makes business sense to prevent accidents as opposed to deal with its consequences. The average number of days away from work is about 33 million days. Think about the associated cost of this. And there are some statistics, but no statistics will be asked for exam anyway. The point is, it's a big number of persons, it's a large number of persons that are injured from work-related accidents and work-related injuries and, God forbid, work-related fatalities, right? So I'm skipping legal because legal is all by itself, right? I'll come back to legal. So rights and expectation of employees. Employees are entitled to basic human needs, welfare. It's not part of your contract to endure suffering at work. Employees have certain duties under Section 7 of something called HASAWA. I'll explain all of this in a bit, but we're going to focus on moral first, right? The employee's duties are to cooperate with the employer, to work safe as not to endanger themselves or others, to report any defects, right? So all of those, some of that is actually legal because moral, legal, financial is kind of closely related anyway, right? But we'll pause in a bit. Let's see if we
What
can
is
explain
Hasawa?
moral for you. Yeah, I'll tell you that in a bit, right? As I read it, I said I'll tell you what it is in a bit, right? So let's go to moral, right? So let's keep the teams and them a bit separate, right? So moral, because when it comes to exam, moral, legal, financial is three separate things there, right? It's not the same thing. So if you have any writing paper, you can take a little bit of notes here. I will try to explain what moral means and how it could come for exam, right? Well, you saw some of it before. Moral, it's kind of like if you go back to the notes, it's kind of like moral, it's sort of like there's an expectation that, right, from society to have a safe workplace, right? There is um it makes business sense, right? To prevent accidents as opposed to deal with the consequences. So what morals speak to, and like I said, it's not about the statistics. No one is going to ask you the average number of days, it's person skill and stuff is 220. The questions don't come like that. An open book exam is not factual based, but it's more like a thinking based exam, right? So what you want to gather for moral is that moral, if you want to write this down, I'll try to write part of it down. It's sort of the right thing to do, right? So if you say there's a moral expectation to manage health and safety, we say you manage health and safety because it's the right thing to do. You do want to prevent these fatalities. You do want to prevent the accidents. You do want to prevent the business loss, right? But moral speaks to the fact then that there is a right way to do things and there's like a wrong way then. But moral means you want to find the right thing to do, right? Now, let me finish all the explanation and then I'll tell you how the question comes. Remember, I just said, no one is going to ask you this. This is just your understanding, right? THING, right? So this is the right thing to do. Moral speaks about the right thing to do. Another way you could think of moral is that moral refers to what some people call the duty of care. So, like the employers must take care of your health and safety, but moral speaks to the fact that it's the right thing to do, or is the duty of care on the employer, right? It's like a duty of care. It's like a unwritten duty of care placed on the employer. Another way to think about moral is that moral, see if we can take them down as well, is that moral speaks to your sense of humanity that health and safety, remember these three headings, is why should health and safety be managed? And the first concept is that it should be managed because it's a moral duty. So moral speaks to your sense of caring. Moral speaks to your sense of right and wrong, so that you should take care of the health and safety of workers. And another way you could think of it is that it's like this sense of care or that sense of consciousness to your fellow human being. Now, if you notice this a bit, as I was saying, moral have nothing to do with the law. When you say there's a moral duty to manage health and safety, we are not talking about the law. We are talking about human beings have a sense of right and wrong, right? And you must manage health and safety because it's the right thing to do, or you must manage health and safety because there is a greater duty of care to humanity there, as opposed to what the law is asking, right? So if you're making any notes, like I said, there are three reasons to manage health and safety: moral, legal, and financial, but the three themes are separate. If you mix the themes, you'll get it wrong. If you say a moral reason is the acronym is so, HASAWA, which is a law, right? But if you say the moral reason is HASAWA, that would be wrong because moral speaks to your sense of humanity rather than the sense of law of the land. So you keep the team separate, and that's why keeping them separate here, right? So moral here speaks to your duty to your fellow human being, your fellow man, right? Another way you can think about it is like moral duty refers to like your human rights. Like you have a right to health, safety, and welfare. You have a right to the enjoyment of your property, the enjoyment of work then. You have a right then to come to work and not put your life on the line, unless if you're in the police service or in the, like the army then, right? So moral speaks to your sense of human rights. And you see, this is why tertiary education is called tertiary education, because it's not really directly from any sort of textbook. Then it's about understanding, and that's what makes NIBOSH what it is. But there are some stuff you have to learn by heart. There are some stuff that I could pinpoint to you, but not moral, right? Moral, see if you understand, speaks to your sense of care, to your fellow worker, your fellow man. Like, for example, if you are the manager and you are going home at the end of the day, well, you want to know that your employees are going home at the end of the day as well, right? There is a sense of caring, then there's a sense of humanity, and that is what moral speaks to. So me forget that a bit. So moral is actually greater than the law, because you're not waiting on the law to tell you provide safe access egress, but you are doing this out of your consciousness, then out of your human rights, out of your humanity, that if you are safe, then your employees must be safe too, like from the perspective of a manager, right? If you are safe, the employees must be safe as well. Tell me if you understand the bigger concept of moral, and you also need to make a mental note or probably a written note that moral is not legal and moral is not financial. Each team is separate on its own. Moral is moral all by itself. Moral speaks to your sense of caring, sense of duty, it's the right thing to do, etc. Tell me if you understand that a bit. And if you do, I could move on to maybe how it could come for exam. It's very easy for exam though, right? And then we can move on to maybe financial. Financial is actually easier than moral. Legal is actually easier as well because it's an open book test. Some of those things are not that difficult because you could use the slides, you could use Google, you could use the PowerPoint, but moral is like a concept. You do what you do for safety because it's your consciousness, that it's like your heart. It's like what you do because it's the right thing to do. So you would not, yeah, like a manager would not, um, you know, provide PPE for the employees, seeing that it is the right thing to do, right? A manager has that consciousness about themselves that they will make sure that the workplace is safe. So moral speaks at like a high level of functioning or a high level of human like intelligence or even well, I think the word is functioning, right? It's a high level of human functioning where we do what we do not because of the law and not because of money, but we do what we do because it's the God given sort of consciousness that you want to get at. Tell me if you understand that, folks. Quickly as well, I don't have the whole event. We can just tell me if you understand or you don't understand it, and then we can move into our past paper. I'll tell you how it could come. I'll just discuss how it could come for our past paper. It's very easy, but moral then is not written down anyway. Moral codes and stuff, it's kind of up to your belief. Moral have to do with your values, your belief, your sense of caring, right? So when they say an employer has a moral duty to manage health and safety, we are going beyond the capacity of the law. We are going beyond the capacity of money. And we appealing to the humanity that's in that employer. Tell me what you think. Do you all understand it? Nikita, we have Kishana, we have Cassie, we have Shwandal.
It's fine.
Okay, good. Okay, so listen to how easy it is though, right? For the exam. So remember, they don't even bring it like this. This is the understanding. That's the thing about tertiary education. I was telling you that tertiary is not secondary school. Tertiary is more like a thinking exam, but it's not hard, right? It's not hard if you understand it a little bit, right? So for the case study, we'll try to look at one, maybe around 7 o'clock. Listen to it though, for the case study, what they do, they are going to describe for you like a company and an accident. You can take a note of that. The case study is about 2 pages long. That should have been a two, right? So that's 2 pages long. And if they ask you moral, I want to say if, because remember, we are not, Nibosh is not from Trinidad, nor is it from Guyana. The people is set in the UK. So, like, it's three of them. This is the first class. Nibosh could pick anyone. They could ask moral. Most students like, in fact, most students like all of them. The best one that students like is financial, and you'll probably see why in a bit. But they will say them like, so folks, I hope you're writing because remember and everything, like I said, unlike the T-Bosch program, those of us who did that one, or unlike any program at the University of Guyana, these things are not marked here. They are not marked in Guyana, they're not marked in Trinidad, they're not marked in Barbados, right? It's going back to the UK. So we have to oftentimes, like, if there is a question, I will tell you, look, I think there's a question here. Now, whether or not the question comes is beyond me, right? It's actually my job to tell you, well, this is common. But remember what I said, it's moral, legal, financial. They can bring anyone. It doesn't have to be moral. In your sitting, it could be financial. But you have to know all. And it's an open book test. So even better yet, you could actually play over the video. A lot of students do that. They open the PowerPoint, you listen to it a bit, you try to understand the concept again, and then you can do your question. So that's the beauty about open book exams. You could use Google, you could use, the textbook, you could use the slides, etc. Right? Anyway, what I was saying, so in the passage, in the 2 pages, what they will do, they will describe then like what the employer is doing. And what they will do, they normally say comment. So I wanted to write this down. They normally say comment on whether or not you believe, they will say comment whether or not you believe that the moral duty then would have been met or would have been fulfilled based on what you are reading. I'll say that again. So most case studies, it doesn't have to be moral, it could be anything in this exam. Most case studies are 2 pages long. And if they are asking a question on moral, they may say comment on whether or not you believe like the managers fulfill their moral duty of care. See if you understand that, right? If you want, you can write that down, right? Comment on whether or not, that's a famous question. Comment on whether or not the managers fulfilled their moral duty of care. I'm going to finish writing that down. Soon as you finish, let me know. Comment on whether or not the managers fulfill their moral duty of care. And what I'm trying to say, what I'm trying to tell you, right, is that the answers for that is in the passage, right? So when you read the passage, if there is a line then that says the manager shouted at his employees. Now, if you read that, then you can say, you have to say like, you believe, you have to say like, in my opinion, the manager, they may give the person a name, have not fulfilled their moral duty of care, right? And what is required in every answer is that you have to quote the passage a bit. You have to take the lines from the passage, right? I'll kind of stress on that a bit next, well, sorry, not next week, tomorrow, as we see you all twice a week, right? So, see if you understand it, as you read the passage, if it says the manager, I'll use another example. Let's say they said the manager did not allocate money, resources for training the young employee so that you can say, well, in my opinion, you see, moral means what? Moral means up here what? Moral is what is it? It's the right thing to do.
Thing to do.
Yeah, so if they say to comment, or now here the thing about comment, right? I don't know if you'll write it. The most you could write, please write, right? Comment means to give your views. And you may wonder why I put 2 arrows here. Comment means to give your views, but when you read the case study then, what I'm trying to say is that and sometimes they may meet the moral duty. I'll put a plus sign here for that. It may be that as you read the case study, it said the manager did meet with the young employee. So then you can say, well, in my opinion, the manager did fulfill their duty of care in that they met with the new employees, and you quote the line, right? So why I put the 2 arrows is that your views could be positive or negative. I don't know if you understand that. Your comment then could be in some cases, because if they say comment on whether or not the manager met their moral duty, in some instances in the case study they would have, and in some cases they would not have. You are free to choose both, because comment means to give your views. If you want, you can take that down. Comment, the verb comment, is today the most popular verb for exam, and it also means to give your views. So your views can be based on how you see it in the case study. In some cases, they may have met their moral duty, and then in some cases, they may have not met their moral duty, but you just call it as you see it, right? And as I say, your source of information is not the slides and it's not the book. The book doesn't have this either. It is the case study and it's your understanding, right? In fact, the past papers actually say, support your answers from the case study, nothing else, not from Google, not from a textbook, but from the case study, right? And that's a technique for exam anyway. But we're going to incorporate everything once you all get your book and whatever have you. But you'll soon realize the technique is you and the past paper, you and the case study, right? All right, see if you understand this. Let's just recap it a bit. So there are three reasons to manage health and safety. One is moral. Moral seems to appeal to like a higher degree of functioning. Moral appeals to the fact that human beings must do what they have to do because it's the right thing to do. We are not waiting on the law or on the police or on OSHA. We do it because it's our sense of humanity to our fellow man. We do it because there's a sense of consciousness, right? We do it because there is I just remember something, but I won't share it with you, right? But yeah, so we do it because there's a sense of human rights then. Like if the managers are going home safely, the employee should go home safely as well, right? And respect to the past papers, what I'm saying, a past paper is about 2 pages long, or a future paper is about 2 pages long. And when they say comment on if the managers would have met the moral duty, you have to search that passage to see about 10 ways where they did or they did not meet their moral duty. In some cases, they would have. In some cases, the past paper would say, or the future paper would say the managers communicated or told the employees where to find the first aid kit. So in your view, you can say, well, in my view, the managers fulfill their moral duty to inform the employees where the first aid kits, right? But in some cases, you may see the managers may not have allocated money, or the managers may be shouting at the workers, but each one of that is an answer. You would just have to say, in my opinion, the manager did meet the moral duty, or in my opinion, the manager did not. Whichever way you see it, you're still going to get it correct, because comment could be positive or negative. It's all about your views, and it's all about getting that moral duty anyway, right? Tell me if you're okay if we could put one more behind us, if we could put financial behind us. What we can probably do is try to find a pass paper. Now it's just like your second class, but as I said, um, not everything in NEBOSH syllabus, because it's only about 7 questions, you get it, 7 or 8. So not everything comes and you have a whole syllabus, but moral, legal, and financial is popular. There are some things we do. I will tell you that there are no past papers on this. I'll tell you, here's what, what we are doing here is not very popular for exam. We have to teach it still, but it's not popular, right? However, today's class is different. Today, tomorrow, a lot of stuff we do initially here is very popular for exam, right? Tell me if you're okay, see if you understand, think for yourself. Do you understand what moral means? Moral means that the managers have to do what's right. I could look in the case study and read and see that they are doing things that are wrong. Maybe they are shouting at an employee. Maybe they are not following, like an emergency evacuation. Maybe they are doing their own thing. The managers are coming to work and leaving early. So when you see things like that, and those is how simple it is, right? That is how simple an exam is. It's like you can comment on what you see the managers not doing anyway, right? Tell me if you're okay with this. We'll try to reflect on it. If not today, like I said, we have another session for the week. Whereas, like I said, all of our other classes is just 1 day for the week. But we have another session for the week. So if we can add one more to it, I'll go searching for a pacifier. And if not, we could do one tomorrow because legal is kind of long, but legal would have pacifiers as well in them, right? All right. Any questions, anybody? Let me know if you're okay with this. Make sure you have your little notes taken down. And if you're okay, just give me the okay, and I would clear the slide and move on to financial.
I'm
Yeah,
okay.
fine.
Okay, very good. Thanks for the feedback. All right. So remember, these things are on recording. I had the video. You could hopefully, I don't know if you all would want to subscribe to the YouTube channel. We post videos there weekly, not just your course. You can get, remember, we are not a one subject school, like there is, other NEBOSH courses now, right? We have environmental. I recently posted environmental yesterday, process safety yesterday, diploma Saturday, posted those videos, and they are free for you all if you're subscribed, and if you could, somebody was telling me they wasn't getting to comment on the videos, but if you could, if your system allows you to comment, fine, you could comment on the videos as well. And this one is going to go up as well. And then we are also going to put it on the WhatsApp group. Um, Perhaps tomorrow, right? Normally these things take some processing time, especially when you put it on YouTube. YouTube has declared for copyright. So when the class is finished, the video is not available at the same time because of what we are doing with it. And then YouTube have a certain copyright thing. They have to kind of do an overnight check on it. I've never been, this is my own work, so I've never been it, but they still have to check for the copyright issues. And of course, there'll be no issues, and then the video will be available um tomorrow. If it's clear tonight, I'll post it up tonight. Most of the times it is not. You can get the video out by tomorrow anyway, right? Let's go to financial. So I'm going to skip legal because legal is long. And yes, legal is the one with the hassle, but we'll come to all of that in a bit, right? So let's go to financial. Financial is very simple. Most people like this question as well. So there are some sit-ins, and we'll see in a bit. There are some sit-ins where students are lucky. When I say lucky, they get 2 questions on this concept. Then, like, they will get what NEBOSH may do. Like, they may give you financial is number 1, and moral is number 7 or number 8. If you get 8 questions, most sit-ins do just have 1. And that's what I said. Some students are lucky because this is an easy class. Most students kind of like these questions anyway, right? They score almost full marks on these questions anyway. But not every sit-in is that lucky. Please take a note of that as a trend. But there are sit-ins. We could open some pacifiers, not all today because we have 4 months together. And you'll see there are some sit-ins with 2 questions here on chapter, well, not even chapter 1. These are the first thing in chapter 1. Because there's a lot more in chapter 1, right? Anyway, let's have a read of this. Financial reasons. I'll read it first and then I'll explain. So they say here, accidents result in both direct and indirect costs. It is estimated, or should we say it was estimated, as the proper thing to say, that the indirect costs, sometimes referred to as the hidden costs, can be 36 times greater than the direct cost of an accident. The direct cost can be insured and uninsured. That has to do with insurance, right? Simply put, if you have insurance for your company, it's probably going to be a direct cost. If you don't have insurance, it's going to be an uninsured cost. Insurance, for example, like the insurance companies in Guyana, right? Asuria, I believe, is one. Alibaba, right? Massey, right? Century 21. So if you have insurance for your equipment and there is some sort of accident and you had insurance for it, you took out insurance for that vehicle, which is low, but let's say it's not a vehicle, let's say it's a piece of equipment, well, then you wouldn't have much to worry about. You could remember, well, you may have to worry because you'd have lost your equipment and that may be holding back production. But you could, like, if you have insurance, when you can say, well, I do have insurance, so in a way, the cost of this equipment will be replaced, right? So direct insured and uninsured speak to the fact as if you took out insurance. If you took out insurance, and have insurance. If you didn't take out insurance, and don't have insurance. Where do you get the insurance from? Insurance companies in Guyana, right? So indirect costs can also be insured and uninsured. And what makes it that way is you. Is either you take out the insurance, right? You are going to the insurance company and you said, I have 20 workers. Can I get workmen compensation insurance? If they say yes, and you qualify, fine, you have insurance for your workers. If your workers are not in one place, if they are moving around from location to location, insurance companies might not want to give you workmen compensation, right? Or public liability, as they call it. In that case, you don't have insurance, so it's uninsured, or it's actually no insurance, right? So insured and uninsured have to do with the fact if you got through then, if you took the initiative, approach some insurance companies. I have done it. And what you'll find is like some insurance companies wouldn't want to insure you, and some insurance companies would. So just keep on going, right? I literally went to a couple of insurance companies, and like for us then, like for a school then, right? Some insurance companies didn't want to insure a school with about 100 students, right? About 300 students for the year, right? Because the student population is not in one place. Insurance cannot cover a facility. But then some insurance companies did want to cover it. So, it all depends on if you got the insurance or you didn't get the insurance. Anyway, let's move on, right? So let's move on. So there's a bigger question here. The bigger question here is, if you look at this a bit, what they say is whenever an accident happens, so God forbid is to happen, there are two types of costs involved. There's what you call the direct cost of the accident, which is sometimes called the insured cost. And then there's the indirect or the uninsured cost of the accident. And what they were saying, statistics long ago would say that the indirect cost is 36 times of what you thought you were going to pay, right? Now, they have revised the figure to be 8, but they still kind of put the 36 inside there. Again, this is not a, NIBOSH is not going to ask you what is the ratio. That's not the question. It's too easy. You just open the slide and see it. It's too easy, right? So let's try to understand this a bit, right? What they're saying is that when an accident happens, there is a direct cost. If you want, you could write it. You could write some stuff down. After I explain it, you'll understand it. Just give me a minute. Yeah, so the direct cost of an accident, you could write this out and leave a little bit of space here, leave about, I don't know, 3 lines, 4 lines, and then there's the indirect cost of an accident. The direct cost and the indirect cost of an accident. All right. So just for the explanation, based on how the iceberg is shown here, the direct cost is kind of like that. The direct cost is like the iceberg, but it's the part that you see, right? It's like, based on that incident with the Titanic and of course the recent incident again. All right, the direct cost is the cost that you see. And the indirect cost, if you look at it, is going to be much more than what you thought you was going to pay. But it's like you don't see it at first. It's said to be the hidden cost of the accident, right? So the indirect cost is the hidden cost of the accident. So if you want, the direct cost is what you can see. Another word to say see is estimate. The direct cost is what you can estimate, right? Let's finish up this word. Direct cost is what you can estimate. Right? So direct costs, okay, look, you have some here, right? Like covering injury, ill health, and damage. So if by some thing that we don't wish on anybody, but if by some chance that, let's say, a company vehicle, a company truck, a company van reversed on the company gate, right? This could be an automated gate. So if you were called to that scene, you could actually see some things then. You could see some things if a company vehicle was to reverse onto the company's gate, right? So the entry and exit gate. Could you tell me some things that you may notice if you were called to that scene? What are some things you may notice if you're called to a scene? You are the safety, and you just got a call on a company van reversed onto, well, the driver reversed onto the company gate. What are some things you could see?
Damage
What
to
are
the
some
gate.
things? Okay, so look at here. So damage to the gate, right? So just put your gate. Very good. So damage to the gate. Anybody else? What are some things you could see? Because the direct cost is what you could see, right? So the damage to the gate, one more again. Could I just get one more? What are something else you'd see?
Damage to the
Before the
vehicle.
Very good, right? So damage to the vehicle. Excellent. So when you see these damages, the other word I have there is that the direct cost is what you could estimate, right? So you could estimate the damage to the gate. Now, let's say it was not, I may call some high figures here. I'm trying to call some high figures, right? But let's say, I mean, I did mention it's an automatic gate, right? So that may cost some money to repair. So let's say then it's going to cost about 30,000, right? Not all bad, but still, I mean, not all bad, but still, still a cost, right? I mean, because it's a smaller cost. So 30,000, that may be just maybe the paint, or maybe something has gone wrong with one of the levers or something, one of the levers, right? So 30,000 could probably get it repaired. You could just call in a technician, he may just charge that fee, right? The cost of the vehicle, again, this is reversing, right? I didn't say it was full speed, it was just reversing. So perhaps there is just some paint, that has been flaked out from the bumper of the vehicle. Perhaps there is a small crack. That could be plastic weld, right? Again, I'm just going to be decent here and say about 50,000 Guyanese dollars, right? So when you look at this now, what I'm saying is that the direct cost, remember, it's a cost, it's a financial reason, right? So we consider the direct cost of this accident is 80,000 Guyanese dollars. No, that's not too bad, but it still is a cost of the accident, right? So 80,000 Guyanese dollars, that's kind of manageable. If you notice, like I said, the figure here is one to symbolize that it's not a high cost. It's a cost that could be managed by the company. Now, what we say, and again, the theory suggests, if you look at the theory here, that there is not just one cost then. It's not just direct, but there is also indirect cost of the accident that you didn't think about at first, that you didn't see at first. You could think of this as the knockdown effect, right? So the knockdown effect, we could take one from here, we could take one from here. So the knockdown effect could be repairs. So when you are tempted to repair the gate, right, that the technician give you the estimate for, the technician says that's just 30,000, right? But when they are tempted to repair it, it cannot repair. You understand what's going on now? When you attempt to repair, the gate is not open and closing. Nothing is happening, right? So that you didn't think about that. You didn't think about that. Well, you said, well, like what's going to happen? Vehicles need to come in, vehicles need to leave. So do we dismantle this gate? No, but it's a company gate. So we need to have it working because we don't want any unauthorized persons there. But what the technician has done isn't working. So there are additional repairs. Folks understand at this point, it's a knockdown, it's an indirect. You didn't think about it. You didn't think about now that I put in a figure here, right? So you didn't think about now, I put in a sort of high figure. I put in a sort of high figure, right? So you didn't think about, okay, now when you have checked it out a bit now, this motor has to change, right? This has to be purchased, that has to be sourced, and you're into the over 200,000 Guyanese dollars now. But initially, you didn't think about that. You said, well, the technician and everybody said this is a minor accident, right? Let's look at another one from the slide here. So another one is this. You may have things here like, let's take a good one, investigation cost. So OSHA, somebody may have reported it to OSHA, the Ministry of Labor, right? They have informed my good friend, the Minister of Labor in Guyana there, right? And I wonder if I have the picture to show you. It's where I have that picture, right? So they have informed Minister Hamilton. I don't know where to find that picture now. Let me see if I can find that picture and show you all that. I'll be lucky to find it because I think he has it though. I know they put it on their page, right? So the Minister of Labor now is coming to investigate with his OSH inspectors, and you didn't think about that. You didn't plan on that, right? You are now being investigated for the period of time. I have so much Guyanese pictures here. The company has been closed down, and you are now suffering a bunch of losses that you didn't think about at first, right? Okay, so I can't find it at the moment, right? I really don't know who I sent it to, and I sent it to a lot of students. You know, I think I put it on my degree chat, but it's not here at the moment, right? I'm seeing a lot of stuff. This is our oil and gas training we did there in Guyana, if you can see that, right? But I met with the minister on the Friday, right? I can't find it at the moment, right? But what I'm saying is that OSHA has now visited the company, and the company has now been closed, right? So you now have lost production. Whatever you were doing, you can't do it anymore. The company has gotten what is called a notice, and a notice carry a fine, and those fines go like for about 45,000 Guyanese dollars each, right? If you get more than one, if you get two, if you get three, if you get four, if you get five. So a fine, you didn't think about this. And then if you have the company being closed, then you have no work being done, you have lost production. So you didn't think about these things at first. And now the cost, so folks, you're saying that the cost that you end up paying now, the cost that you end up paying for this minor accident is way more than what you thought. If you want, could you finish up this word for me? Lost production. You could just finish up at lost production. You could write on the word production there. If not, it's on this, it's on the other slide. If you don't want to write it, I have them on the other slide, right? But if you're writing it on this, as how we write it here, you can write it down one time, right? So you understand when an accident happens, there are two costs. There's the cost that you see at first, like the iceberg, but then there's a cost that you don't see, but it comes back to bite you, then it comes back to haunt you because this other cost, this indirect cost that is not going to be covered with insurance, is going to be way much more than what you thought that you were going to pay. Just tell me if you understand that concept a bit, because if you understand that, well, the rest of it is just on the slide. The rest of it is just to get some direct costs and to get some indirect costs, right? To get some direct costs and to get some indirect costs. Tell me what you think.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, good. All right.
I understood it too.
Okay, good. Very good. Thanks very much. Okay, so now here the thing, right? Just in case you didn't get it, it's on the slide and it's an book exam, right? So just in case you didn't get it, look, I have them out here. I wrote them out here, right? I'll probably get to some good ones. I have more than one slides with it, but we can take it from here, right? Some indirect costs could be, this is a knockdown cost, loss of goodwill, production delays, extra overtime payment, additional administrative time incurred, lower employee morale following an accident, and that is going to cause them to work to rule them. They're not going to do anything extra. Following an accident, if somebody would have witnessed, God forbid, the death of a co-worker, they may come to work, but they may just be on work that they're not mentally there, right? So you may have lower employee morale, and that is going to affect production in the long run, right? First aid training and the provision of facilities and equipment. So if you use any first aid in the accident, like you had given out a bandage and whatever have you, well, you have to replenish all of that. So all of that is an additional cost anyway, right? Okay, so that's it for this one, all right? We have it in a couple of slides. You can read out all of them. I have it on more than one slide. If you want, before we leave this, we can mention the past paper, right? It's about 10 to 7. So remember what did the other one I mentioned, a past paper? So the most common past paper, now please remember, like I said, we are not predicted anything. It's just like a trend, right? So do not say, I see this is coming. I'm saying this came before, right? The thing with any good teacher is that they can probably predict what is coming for exam or what has come before. Now, what has come doesn't mean that it will come again, right? What has come doesn't mean that it will come again, but it's all about good trend analysis then, right? So the most common financial question is indirect, what you're looking at here. However, they have brought direct as well. Sometimes they get for 5 marks, they want 5 direct costs of the accident, and then they want 5 indirect costs of the accident, or 5 insured and 5 uninsured. But here again, the most common one is 10 uninsured. So what is 10 uninsured cost of an accident, right? So you just think about it knockdown. Now, the thing is, when I say think, you have the case study. Remember, that's the thing about your exam. Your exam, why everybody like this exam is because there's a case study. You could actually go to the case study. And if the case study says the authority is coming to investigate, well, then you can see well, then that's a cost. If the case study said the employee, folks, I could give you more in it. It have more in it. I wonder if you get this, right? The thing about tertiary education is that you have to understand the concept. The concept, folks, listen to me a bit. The concept is not limited to my slide. It's not limited to the slide. The concept is direct cost is what you could see, and indirect cost is the knockdown cost. So when you read the case study, if they mention something is going to happen, you could use that. For example, if they say the employee is thinking about suing the company, what about that one? You want to put that one down? You could add that to your listener. You could add that to the list, wherever your list is, right? So if the employee is thinking about civil action, well, that's said in the case study, whether that's a knockdown effect. They didn't think about that. They didn't think somebody will come and sue them. Civil action, right? The one I mentioned before, like a fine from the enforcing authority, which in Guyana is the Ministry of Labor, right? A fine. So that may or may not be here. I don't think it's here. But if they mention it, right? If they even said, like the case that he mentioned, this is a special piece of equipment that has to be purchased from a foreign company. Now, you didn't think about that, right? If you read that in the case study, folks, that's what I'm telling you. The case study is your source of the answer. If you can understand that, I think I told you all about cricket, which we can't really tell you all about cricket. But the point of this example is that cricket is a game of technique, right? It's skill and technique. So is passing this exam. This is an open book test. Don't look to study. Don't cram anything. You could open the slides and use them. You could open the video and watch it. The day for the exam, you are not being supervised. You have 24 hours to do 7 or 8 questions. Some sittings you get six questions, right? You have 24 hours to do 7 or 8 questions, right? But what I'm saying is that you're not limited to the slide. You're not limited to your book. You're not limited to the class there. You could just Google it if you wanted to. You can take it from the case study, but you have to understand the concept. The concept is direct cost is what you see. So if they ask you 5 indirect, you can go to the case study and see what they said, what was damaged, who was injured, right? But if they say 10 uninsured, which is the most popular question, you can take it from the slide here. But as you read the case study, like you would see where they say, like OSHA is coming to investigate, right? You would see where they say, like that's not what you will see, like where you can mention right? Based on what they say, like based on what they say, you can use that then, right? Like an employee has left the company. So if you say the employee has left the company, well then, well, that's something, that's an uninsured cause. That's something they didn't think about. The injured person end up leaving, right? So there is more answers to the world than in tertiary education if you understand the concept. Direct is what you see, indirect is the knockdown effect. So it's not limited to the slide. It may be limited to the case study, but it's not limited to the slide, or is it limited to just one class anyway, right? Tell me if you're okay with that. I just have one slide to read out to you all. And that's it, financial is done. We could start legal a little bit and see if we can bridge into a past paper, just so that we can see it, right? It's about going to 7 anyway, right? Tell me if you're okay with this. Financial, direct and indirect, moral would have been the right thing to do. We do what we do, not because of the law, but because it's our sense of humanity. That's what moral is. So if you read a case study and it said the employer was shouting at the employee, well, then you can say, well, that's not moral, right? So that was the whole thing with moral and financial. Folks, you're okay with this one? I want to move this slide a little bit. Let me move it a bit here. Let's get into this one here, right? So look, I had all the answers here now. Direct, what is direct, what is indirect? You could just take them from my slides. Right, so the last slide is this one. This is not a past paper. Again, like I said, with a tough syllabus like this and only 7 or 8 questions for the exam, they cannot, speaking of human or human, moral duty, they cannot humanly test the whole. It's not 100 questions you're getting, it's about 7 or 8 questions that you're going to get, right? So employer liability compulsory insurance, let me read it out for you. So required by the Employers Liability Compulsory Insurance Act for all employers. Its main purpose, I'm gonna try to clear some of the slide. Its main purpose is to ensure a means of receiving compensation by employees upon suing their employer, irrespective of the financial position of the employer. Employer will be fined 250, 2,500 pounds for non-compliance, right? So what is this all about? This is the public liability insurance I was talking about, that even you all in Guyana should have it. Public liability workman compensation. This is that, right? That companies that take out this insurance, again, what I mean by take out, the manager have to get themselves to an insurance company, asks, request for a quotation, could I have like insurance to cover my workers? And if they do that, what this is saying is that if by chance something has happened, like an accident, an injury, or God forbid, a death, and the employee is suing the employer, well, once you have this type of insurance, in other words, then there are two things that happen. The employer is safe because they have insurance to cover the cost. And the other thing will happen is that the injured person will get money. The injured person will receive compensation, right? Then if you understand that the purpose of insurance, the company will be protected, and the injured person, if they win the case, will be compensated from the insurance company, right? I don't want to spend too long on this point, but the question is, do you know if your company have public liability insurance? Do you know if they have it? Yeah, somebody saying yes. Well, from my discussion with folks in Guyana, a lot of you all tend to mix this up and you think this is NIS. This is not national insurance. National insurance is national insurance. This is public liability. Again, I'll mention who gives this type of insurance? All the insurance companies in Guyana. The same insurance company that insure your vehicle and your homes would insure workmen as well, right? So you could find out it may not be enforced. This is something I'm thinking about in Guyana. It mightn't be enforced, but it is the law. Just that the OSHAC is low in Guyana, but how much of it is being enforced, right? Um, but just bear in mind, right? This is not national insurance. If you want this type of insurance, you are going to Asuria, you're going to Century 21, you're going to Massey, you're going to these companies that have insurance then, right? You're going to, I don't know if you all have Sagico or Beacon, you're going to those types of it. I saw a lot of them when I was there. For the life of me, now, I can't remember all of them beside it. Assuria, I think Assuria is a big one, a big insurance company have in Guyana. But that's where you're getting this from, right? You're not, this one is not the government one. So if you are injured and your company have this type of insurance, you're getting money from two places. You could get from the National Insurance Board of Guyana. And if you have workman compensation, when I say you, your company that you're working for, if they have this and you are injured and you sue and you win, well, then you will get money from the insurance company as well, right? Yes, Nikita, thanks for the question. Let's hear.
Does this apply to like our government agencies?
Which part of it?
Um,
Just
the employer, as in my employer would be the minister, right? For the agency I'm working with. So, the ministry is obligated to have this for all of their agencies.
that's a good question. The thing is, the duty is on employers. So if they are classed as an employer, I think the answer is yes. It isn't limited then or restricted to the public or the private sector. The duty is a duty on all employers. So if the ministry is an employer, I suppose they should have employers liability insurance as well. You can ask them in a nice way. Don't ruffle too much of feathers, right? But in the oil and gas class, I was teaching this, and somebody did say their company had it. You know, you expect the bigger companies to have it, right? The companies are called just now there, the Gisby and stuff, they have it. But the problem may be the smaller companies might not have it. Um, the same thing in Trinidad, the same thing in Grenada as well. A lot of small companies don't have this type of insurance. Now, the other thing is that it's not expensive enough. It's not expensive. It's not expensive, right?
My other question is, who would be the enforcer of this?
I think it will still be the Ministry of Labor, right?
Okay.
Unless if there is some, I mean, like I said, I'm not quite, I mean, I know the Ministry of Labor in Guyana. I don't want to put too much in them, but I don't know if there is another government entity in Guyana that may be responsible for the enforcement of making sure that companies have workmen compensation, right? I mean, that's a long story short. When I am actually working, I said with Usha across there too. But they are seriously, they have some vacancies. You know, if anybody when you get your NEBOSH, you want to apply, they just taking you on anyway. Once you get your NEBOSH, you're being employed. I know a couple of students of mine that I employed at the Ministry of Labor. But to be honest, I would be guessing if I say visit Ministry of Labor. The truth is I do not know all of the ministries in Guyana. I am not sure that as in which ministry is in charge of fulfilling and making sure companies have that, right? The reason to remember safety is still a developing field in Guyana, right? Minister Hamilton, which is your Minister of Labor, I think he has been a minister for 5 years. Is it 5 years now? I think, or is it 4 years now, right? 4 years. I believe next year have an election. So I'm not too sure how much would have been done or how much could have been done in the time that he was there. Anybody knows him? So do you all know your Minister of Labor? I have a picture with him, and it's where I send that picture and who I send that picture to. But I did think, as I was talking to you, and I think I sent it to my degree class because what happened? We have so I'm trying to find it here, but we have Guyanese students in our degree program. So do you all know him? Do you all know him? So that's him. That's your Minister of Labor for Guyana. Anybody knows him? Yes or no?
I
He's a
was
really
there last year after your class for the first seminar. He was there. I met him
right. He
once.
was there. Yeah, I met him. Yeah, and he is very passionate. What I'm saying, I am not quite convinced that
Talk a little too much.
yeah, that he is. This is the Occupational Health and Safety Department in the Ministry of Labor there, right? I was there. Look, he took a picture, but he took a picture with us, right? But the thing is, his photographers took it. This is what I took with him when I was in the meeting with him, right? But his photographers took one, and I know that that probably means they use everything as a publicity now. So, I don't know, I can't remember if he sent that formal picture to me. I think he probably sent it to Barbara, Miss Barbara, in the New Guyana School. So therefore, I should probably check her chat. Let me just check and see if I sent it to her. And the thing is though, like I said, the ministry
Yeah,
is
when
not a
you met
bad.
him, was it last year, eh?
I met him twice. Yeah, I met him last and I met him this time again here. Yeah, right.
Okay. Well, the
Yeah,
first time you
but
met him, I was there.
you were there. Okay, very good, very good. Right. The point is here. Oh, look at here, man. He took this picture, right? This is one of his photographers took this picture here. If you can see that, right? So that's him, myself, and Barbara anyway there, right? But OSHA is not a bad place to work, right? However, you can make more money in the private sector. You can make more money with, other than the ministry. You can make more money right now in Guyana. When you'll get this NIBOS certificate, they are taking you all up, right? They are taking you all Exxon, all of the big companies. I had a meeting with DDL. I think it's DDL. I had a meeting with banks. They're just waiting for you all to get that certificate. So that's the good news. You all are really lucky. In Trinidad here, when you get a NIBOS cert, you may have to wait a bit and then be interviewed and but in Guyana, once you have it there, it's like gold right now in terms of the educational sector. So they're taking you all. And yeah, OSHA is not a bad place to work, but you can make more money out in the companies and take it from me anyway, right? But if you want to work for OSHA, fine, that's up to you for a while, right? OSHA is not a bad place to work anyway, right? There's a reason for saying that, but it's not today's class. If you read this whole PowerPoint, we wouldn't reach here today. There is actually in this class, well, not this class, not today, next week, there is actually the powers of the inspector. Look at here. The functions of the enforcing authority, right? If I can go back a bit, the powers of an inspector, right? And he has some good inspectors. He wants to train a bit more. So with your NIBOS, you could be an harsh inspector. But like I said, the ministry, I don't think they're going to pay as much as the companies out there now, the GISBs and the contractors and stuff out there now. They can pay you much more than what the ministry may pay, right? But it's all up to you. And remember, please remember, folks, this is the real NIBOS. I keep telling you all. I don't always prove that to you all. But this is the real NIBOS. And you don't have to stay, in Guyana. I mean, I'm not saying to go somewhere. I'm just saying that, remember, this NIBOS is not from the New Guyana School. It's not from the University of Guyana. It's not from Shadrach Safety. This is from NIBOS itself, right? So you could actually apply and work anywhere in the world. As the class go along, we have mentioned that to you all. I can actually open my vacancy and show you all. In fact, like I have one here. I did some, folks, just in front of the oil and gas classes. I probably won't show you that one, right? You can do it for yourself. I open a vacancy live. I put myself on the spot. I went and Google and I just Googled HSE jobs in Guyana. And what did we see was NIBOS, right? In front of everybody, the projector to the back of me. I know if it wasn't NIBOS, I would have gotten caught. When I say caught, I mean, like some vacancies mightn't ask a NIBOS, but it was NIBOS I was asking for. The first one I clicked was NIBOS. The second one I clicked was NIBOS, right? Anyway, let's finish this here. So if you want, I'm looking at the time. Maybe just briefly introduce the legal part of it so I could answer the question, which was what was HASAWA? And we'll take it up there. I will try not to go too deep here because I wanted to kind of show you our past paper as well, right? So for the legal, remember we said there are 3 reasons to manage health and safety. There's a moral reason, meaning you manage health and safety because it's the right thing to do. God watching you then, right? So God, you have to answer to God. It's a sense of humanity. You manage health and safety because it's the right thing to do. The next thing you saw, there's a financial reason to manage health and safety. Meaning if you don't manage financially, if you don't manage an accident, you're going to have some monies to pay. And the monies may be direct or indirect. We have just said the indirect is way much more than what you thought you was going to pay. So it makes sense, right? One of the slides said that it makes sense. You can find back that line. I'm trying to find back that line. It makes sense to prevent an accident, right? Than to deal with the consequences of the accident. I can't remember which part we read that, but I know it was a line that we read, right? But even if we didn't read it, it just makes sense, right? That it makes sense to prepare for and make sure the place is safe than to deal with the consequences of an accident, right? And another consequence is the law, right? So to start this off, what you want to do here, you want to write down what I'm going to put here, which is there is a law, which is said to be the foundational law for health and safety in the world, and that is this law here. Now, the proper name for it, I mean, that's just an acronym. It's the health. You can write on the whole thing if you want. So the health, you can put THE if you want, but that's put health, right? So the health, safety, I guess you can figure it out, right? The health, 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 safety, and welfare regulations, health, safety, right? And so that's health, safety, health and safety, and welfare. But most people drop off the and, right? Health, safety, and welfare regulation. Well, you could probably say health, safety, and welfare act, in fact. Could I just take this off a bit? This one kind of got a bit too big, right? Let me just put this one back here for you. So the health and safety, that's a good way to say it if we take it from the acronym. The health and safety at work act, my marker seems to be disappeared, right? Just give me a minute. Health and safety at work act 1974. Now, there's actually a better acronym for it, which is where I told you to drop off the ands. The modern acronym doesn't have Health and Safety at Work Act. The modern acronym doesn't have the A's in it, right? The modern acronym is HSW, right? So the most common acronym you'll find today is HSW and not HASAWA. HASAWA was back in my day. That's how, but an acronym is an acronym. Please remember, an acronym is just a shorter way of remembering the longer thing there, right? So back in the day, look, a guy and a student is messaging me here, right? This is one of my past students. When I say past, she just passed. She just passed. I don't know if I mentioned her to you. She was a teacher, right? She just passed and she has gotten work. I wish I could have shown you this picture, Lord. But the thing is who I send them to, right? She just passed and she got work in Gisby, right? In fact, she was the one that arranged a meeting for me with one of the managers at Gisby, right? And this is this year talking about. This is not 10 years ago. This is not back in my day. This is this year. I can't seem. I think I'm looking at my sister's chat, right? I think I sent it to my sister. So let me see if I could find it on her chat. Yeah, look at here, right? I don't know if anybody knows right? That's one of my students. And this year she passed, right? She came, she met me here, right? This year she passed. That's Nikisa. And you see in a coverall, in fact, when I was there in March, she wasn't working as yet. I actually brought a certificate for her this year, right? And then she got in at Gisby and she is working there, very happy. She says she's getting more money there than she did as a teacher. She's not getting all, apparently Gisby taken some from what this is a long story, right? Anyway, but she's much happier there. And you know, she anybody familiar with the company? Anybody from is a good company to work for, you know, good salary, good support system, stuff like that. Right. And you know, that is just
Gisby
somebody
has
that
its cons and its pros. It has a high staff turnover.
say it again.
Gisby has its cons and its pros. It has a high staff turnover as well.
Yeah, well, I suppose this is actually her first from, she was a teacher for 11 years, right? When I gave her certificate in March, when I say gave, I didn't give it, right? Nebo sent it from England and I had it in Trinidad. I mean, make that the right way. Next thing you think, because remember, we are not NIBOSH, right? So so came to Trinidad. When I came to Guyana in March, I brought it forward. She was still a teacher. When I came back now, which was last 2 weeks, she left teaching and she got into Gisby, and she is one of the safety. She seems happy. I mean, she does seem happy. She said she's making more than she did as a teacher, and she's happy for the experience. So if she stays there, I'm not too sure. The point is, she have the NIBOSH. She could work there. She could work another company. She could work. In fact, while I was there, just to be honest with you, she mentioned another student of mine. Let me see if I remember his name. I can't remember his name. I can't remember his name at the moment, right? Anyway, he was one of the first, and then she told me he left. She said he left. So yeah, people do leave. He left and he went into another company. He's getting much more. But she said when she was coming in, he was like the main safety there, right? I don't know. I can't see when you talk sometimes and you talk to a class, it's like one thing your brain could do, right? But and he's a past student. He wasn't this year. He could have been about 2 years ago, right? The name will come into my mind. If it comes to my mind, I'll shout it out in a bit, right? But we were talking about him too. So yeah, there's nothing is wrong with that. Better company, better money, fine. You know, if you have your NIBOSH, great, go where it is you have to go, right? Anyway, let's get back to the story here. So the story here is that there's a main law for health and safety. Just try to listen to how I was saying it, right? Because it's the truth how I was saying it, right? There's a main law for health and safety in the world. And that's what you're looking at here, right? It's called the Health and Safety at Work Act. The long-term people like me used to say HACCP, but the modern acronym in the book is HSW, right? HSW, some people say HSWA, but HSW is just fine, is the modern acronym. That's why I didn't put the "and" here with it, because I know what's the modern acronym anyway, right? HSW. And let me kind of talk about, well, I'll just make one paragraph in my talk, right? As to why I said this is the main law for health and safety in the world. So this is not an exam, this is just facts, right? So why I said what I said is because, remember, the British rule this part of the world, right? When you all drive out of Georgetown, heading to Berbice, have you all ever noticed the names? I noticed it because it's my first time. Have you all ever noticed the names of the signs that you all see, the signs of the different towns? What are some of those tongues when you leave and you head out there? Like what are some of the tongues that you all see? What we call, I guess I'm saying tongue. I'm not too sure if it's a tongue, but what are some of the villages you see there? Anybody know any of them? When you leave Georgetown, if you leave Georgetown and you're heading down to Berbice, what are some of the signs that you see that would represent the different, I guess if it's areas or communities? What are some of the
Golden Grove and
Villages.
Yeah, but what are some of the names? Okay, so here Golden Grove, what again?
and more.
What
Then I
again?
get further down, you have Mahika, Maikoni,
Very
and
good, very good. Now,
63
very good.
Village.
I remember Mahika. I remember that one, right? But do you all notice that these are all English names? Have you all noticed that they are all? I noticed that they are all English names. Even when you get down to Berbice, they are all English names anyway. Anyway, the point of this story is that the British rule this part of the world. They rule Guyana, they rule Trinidad, they rule Jamaica, Barbados. In fact, some islands are still being ruled by the British and the French, right? Grenada, where I have students as well, doesn't have a president. Trinidad has a president, Guyana has a president, America has a president, Jamaica has a president, right? So you all are what we call a republic. But the point of this story is, let me get to the point of the story. The point of the story is that when we came independent, when we became a republic, not all Caribbean countries are a republic. I remember I tell you Grenada and stuff is not a republic, right? They are independent, but they're not a republic. right? But when we became independent and when we became like a republic, what you find is like when they took in the Osh Act of Guyana, then the Osh Act of Guyana, 1997 is your Osh Act. Those of us who would have done the course with Robert, you'd have done this very well, right? The Osh Act 1997. When Guyana, got this through the bill stages and it was approved to be the law of Guyana, meaning it was signed by the president at that time, right? What I'm trying to tell you is that Guyanese did not invent it. See if you understand what I'm trying to tell you, right? Guyanese didn't invent the Osh Act. In fact, America didn't invent it either. The British rule America. I mean, and do you all know who is the head of state of Canada? You know the British still rule in Canada. The head of state of Canada is still the King of England. Well, it would have been the Queen, but the Queen passed away last year, right? So Canada doesn't have a president. The head of state of Canada, Grenada, doesn't have a president. The head of state of Grenada is the King of England. Don't know if you know that. But not Guyana, not Trinidad, not Jamaica, not America. We have a president. You all have a president, right? However, see if you understand what I'm trying to tell you. When was time to pass the law then? If the British law said to provide, read some of this, to provide safe place of work, safe access and egress, safe plant and equipment, provide safe systems of work, provide safe and competent fellow employees, provide adequate levels of information, instruction, training, and supervision, provide adequate facilities and welfare arrangements. Now, these things sounds good. It sounds good. So if it had sounded good, what they did, they just use it back into the Osh Act of 1997. Folks, you understand what happened? So therefore, what I said, the HSW Act, the British Act then, remains the foundational law for health and safety in the world today, including America. The British rule America. When America wanted their own, they just took back the same HSW Act. When Guyana wanted their act, they just took back the same HSW Act. When Trinidad wanted ours, and here in Trinidad, we took it back in the year 2004. When Grenada wanted an Osh Act in the year 2015. 2015 wasn't so long. They just took back the same HSW Act. So you understand what I said now, that the HSW Act is the main law for health and safety in the world. If you again wonder why, it's not just that the British rule the world enough, but they did. Right? But it's not just that. I think the real reason is because the thing was good. You understand? The duty on the employer seemed to sound good, that the employer must provide a safe place of work. So why bother then to go and reinvent this line if the line is a good line? Why reinvent the wheel then if the wheel is already moving, is already turning? The wheel is a good invention. So you could there's probably nothing you can do to make the wheel better, like to make a moving wheel better, right? So when the world wanted their own act, and like I'll leave yours here, the Osh Act 1997, they just took the same HSW Act, right? And they enacted it in Parliament, and then they got it signed by the president, and then it became law in the respective countries. Not just you, America, Grenada, Jamaica, Trinidad, well, I guess parts of India as well, right? India was ruled by the British as well, right? Parts of Nigeria, right? So wherever have an occupational health and safety work act, it sort of resembles the old 1974 HSW Act. Tell me if you understand that a bit, and I want to share a little fact here with you for exam. Tell me if you understand why we follow the system. And by the way, folks, trying to see what to say. Well, I know what to say, but I'm trying to see how not to say to some anyway, right? But so I would not comment on anything about, the British themselves, right? I would just say, do you all agree that the system of education they have is good? The CXC system came out of the CAPE system. Sorry, my mistake. Let me say that again. The CXC and CAPE system came out of the GCE. O-level program that they have in the UK. And CAPE came about because of A-levels. CAPE is just like a local version of what we used to call A-levels long time. A-levels is still around. Do you all know that? Do you all know what A-levels is? Some countries have not done away with A-levels. Do you all know that? You know what A-levels is, right? A-levels after CXC, you could go and do A-levels. But in the region now, we have what is called CAPE. But CAPE is like what I'm talking about. CAPE and CXC is like GCE long ago and A-levels, right? But there are some places like Grenada, they still have A-levels. They still have A-levels, right? There are some schools in Grenada, maybe some schools in Guyana, maybe some schools in Trinidad that still offer the British version of the qualification. So see if you can answer the question again. I'm going to ask it one more time. So do you agree to one fact, which is at least, because you all have, remember, if you all know what I'm talking about, you all must know what I'm talking. I try not to go into it. You know, you all have a brave president that stood up to the British. So that's all I will say about that. But do you agree then that at least the system of education was good, that at least these points here from the British law is good? And if it's good, that the employer must provide adequate levels of information, instruction, training, supervision, and it's good enough for Guyana, it's good enough for Trinidad, it's good enough for America. What do you all see? What do you all, so do you all understand the point? I'm talking to myself.
I understand your point, but I'd have to get more details on the provisions in the acts or the laws to determine if it's good enough.
Well, I would probably want to say, if you look at the act here on this page as a sample, and if we say America has committed themselves to the same thing, Japan, Malaysia, Singapore has committed to the same things you see here, then by what standard do you have to see any more to say that, that it's a good
I'm
act?
not disagreeing with that.
Yeah.
No, I understand what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
But there's a broad strokes you're looking at. And in some points, like, for example, when you get down to the actual fineries in it, then you'd know differently. So it's just from a personal perspective of
Yeah,
mine.
yeah,
I understand the point that
yeah.
you're trying to make, that
Yeah,
it's implemented worldwide. And
yeah, it is.
implementation worldwide is a good thing.
Yeah,
But if what we have here in Guyana is adequate to answer that question, I'd have to analyze the information and then get back
a
to
bit
you.
more. Yeah, understand. Well, I think that is what the minister is trying to do, though. However, remember, I think, remember, he is now the minister, but the act has been around since 1997 in Guyana. What he has said, though, is that it needs to be updated, but what needs to be updated is not the lines here. What needs to be updated is the money, the fines that the companies are paying. The fines in Guyana, if you all don't know, for breaching the OSHA, like if a company did not provide safe plant and equipment and somebody died, which has happened, I can have it on my phone. I feel it's a joke, right? I have all of these things on my phone, and just to give it a time. I know time wouldn't permit, right, for me to share all with you, right? One of my students, American, posted an accident. I could probably send it. Let me just show you here. I actually showed this to the minister. Mechanical electrocuted. Sorry, a mechanic electrocuted, right? I'd forward it to the WhatsApp group in a bit, right? This was just a couple of weeks ago, maybe. Well, this happened about a week before I went to Guyana, right? Anyway, the current fine is, anybody knows the current fine in your act? The current fine. So that's what the minister is looking to. I'll send it to you all now, and before I forget. I send one there to you all. Anyone have an idea what's the current fine in the Guyana OSHA? The point is, the minister is saying that he was saying it's a bit. Anyone knows it by chance? Anybody did it? If it did it in with Robert, if it did it in the T-Bosch program, I started to write it because it gets late, right? So it's actually 40. I was hoping somebody would have known it. It's actually $45,000, which is not a lot. Like a big company then, like there's no money for them to pay. So the minister, so what is different with the Guyana Ush Act and the UK Act is he fines is way much more. Tomorrow you'll probably see how much more, but we can probably save millions of dollars more if we convert it back to Guyanese dollars. The same thing in the same line. Like if you breach this in Guyana, 45,000 Guyanese dollars. I can try to calculate it for you. If you convert that same breach in Guyanese dollars, let me convert it for you. Okay, the same breach in Guyanese dollars is 620,000 Guyanese dollars. If you draw a comparison to like the fine in the UK, then it's the same line. So anywhere you go, it's the same line, right? Anywhere in America, the duty is the same. Provide safe place of work. You come in Trinidad, the USHAC in Trinidad. You go in Canada, it's the same thing. Provide safe place of work, provide safe systems of work. But if it's breach, the fines differ. The fines right now in Guyana is 45,000 Guyanese dollars per breach. But if you convert this is the UK, so I convert it back into Guyanese money here, because it's actually 20,000 UK pounds. So did I convert it correctly? No, I didn't convert it correctly. I converted it to TT. My mistake, folks. Give me a minute. I converted it to TT. So it's more than that. 20,000. Convert back to TT. And then to Guyanese. Okay, it's actually 6,200,000. Right? It's actually 6 million. Forgive this here. This is I didn't do right. So in terms of when you convert the UK fee, the same line carries more money there. So what this could prove to you, I don't know what this proves here. This proves to you that certain countries may be more serious about health and safety than Guyana. Because today, out of this death that I showed you there with this mechanic that was electrocuted, the most OSHA may do is give a fine of 45,000 Guyanese dollars. And the minister himself is saying that's too little bit. But the same line carries a higher fine. So this is the conversion back in Guyanese here. The same line provides safe plant and equipment. If you were to convert that, how much money it is in England, if you convert it back to Guyanese, it's an equivalent and it's 6,200,000 per breach. So we can say then that around the world, the same line could attract a higher fine. And then that could tell you that in certain parts of the world, they are more serious about health and safety than in other parts of the world anyway. So that's what the minister is looking at. I don't know. I am not the minister. I don't know. All I can say is that if they will do anything to improve it, if they'll do anything to change it, if they'll do anything to make it better, that is up for a national or a local level anyway, right? Folks, we have to stop